Good morning, children. In the last video, we just discussed about the forces acting on an object and three possibilities. If two forces acting on an object in the same direction, the total force is determined by adding them. If two forces acting in the opposite direction, then the resultant force can be determined by taking the difference of the forces. For this case of forces acting in the opposite direction, there are three possibilities. Suppose we take F1 and F2 are the two forces. If F1 greater than F2, resultant force is positive. Positive means the resultant force acts towards right. If F1 less than, smaller than F2, then the resultant force is negative. That means the resultant force acts towards left. Whenever any force or any resultant force acting on any object, in that case, the object tends to change its state in the direction of resultant force. If F1 greater than F2, the object tends to move in the direction of greater force, that is F1 is greater. So in that case, F is positive. If F2 greater than F1, then the object tends to move towards left. That means the resultant force acting towards left. If the resultant force produced in any object, then that forces are known as, then in that case F1 and F2 are known as unbalanced forces. Unbalanced forces, a group of forces acting on an object produce some resultant force, are known as unbalanced force. So unbalanced force can change the state of an object. If an object is at rest, it can move by unbalanced force. If it is in motion, then it can be stopped by that unbalanced force. It can be used to change the direction also. If a ball is moving in a particular direction, if you want to change its direction, then the unbalanced force can be applied. Then what about this case, the last case, in that F1 and F2 are equal? That means practically also you can think about an example. Suppose a ball taken in your hand and you are holding it. Someone is coming and pulling that ball. In that situation, on the ball, two forces are acting, your force and other person's force. Both are pulling the ball towards them. So in that case, if the ball is not moving in any direction, that means both the forces are equal and opposite. You are pulling, this is the ball, and you are pulling in this direction, in your direction. The other person is pulling the ball in the opposite direction. If the ball is not moving in any direction, if the ball remains at the same position, then we say they are equal and opposite. F1 and F2 are equal and opposite. In that case, both are balancing each other. We say that forces are balanced forces. So balanced forces are the group of forces acting on an object produce the zero resultant force. The resultant force will be zero. So in this balanced force acting on this object, the object is not changing its state. That means to change the state of an object means to move the object from rest, to stop the object from motion, to change the direction. Balance force cannot be applied. Balance forces can be used to change the shape and the size. Balance forces can be used to change the shape and the size. For this, you can take an example. Take a balloon, inflated balloon, or you can take a ball in your hands, in your two hands, and press the ball by your both the hands. You can see that both the hands are applying force on that ball which are equal and opposite. The left hand apply the force, right hand also apply the force, and both the forces are equal and opposite. In that case, you can see that the shape is changing. The shape and size of the ball changes. So balanced forces can change the shape and size. Unbalanced forces can produce other three effects of forces. So these are the balanced and unbalanced forces. So here, we were talking about the forces acting on an object, and already we discussed the force is measured with a unit, that is Newton. That is the SI unit of force, Newton. Here you can find out the resultant force, net force, if F1 is equal to 100 Newton and F2 is equal to 50 Newton. You can see that the resultant force definitely it acts in the direction of F1 because F1 is greater, then it is positive. So like this you can solve any numerical that is related to the balanced and unbalanced forces acting on this object. Now we move on to the next part, that is a force is acting on any object if it is at rest. Suppose we take a ball, it is placed on a ground. In the beginning it is at rest, it means its speed is 0. If we apply a force, the force may be of any magnitude, maybe 50 Newton, 100 Newton, any value. Then in this case you can see the ball comes in motion in the direction of force. The force applied from left to right, the object also moves from left to right. If we reverse the direction of force, the object changes the motion. The object also reverses its direction of motion. Then, if we take another case is, if the object already in motion, already it is moving. Suppose a ball is rolling on the ground. If it is already in motion, in that situation, if we apply the force, in that situation, the force is applied in the direction of motion. Then in the other case, ball is moving in this direction, if the force is applied in the opposite direction. Two cases arise. Whenever anything is moving, in that case, the force may be applied in the same direction of motion or opposite direction of motion. In both the cases, two different effects produced. Here, if the force is applied in the same direction of motion, what we will find? We will find that the speed of object, speed increases. Speed of object increases. Whatever the speed with which it was moving, definitely it increases. But in this case, when the force is applied in the opposite direction of motion, the speed decreases. Speed decreases means to decrease the speed of moving object, the force must be applied in the opposite direction. To increase the speed, force must be applied in the same direction of motion. And one more conclusion, to change the speed of object. Here it is moving with some speed. Force is applied in the opposite direction. Speed decreases. By decreasing the speed, finally the object may come to rest also. It may come to rest. The speed may become zero. To reduce the speed and to make it zero, the force must be applied in the opposite direction. To increase the speed, the force is applied in the same direction of motion. These are the things which we can experience in the practical examples. And remaining things we'll see in the next session.